Hi, and thank you for joining me today's process video. And today I'm using the beautiful October Lane from Simple Stories to document 2 photos of me and the kids and mum when we went up to Blackpool back in 2016. We just went up for the day to see the lights, and there is a story to that which I'll go into shortly. So I've chosen 3 papers that coordinate really nicely from this collection, and I'm going to create strips at the top and bottom of the page. So you can see the main paper I've just torn a larger chunk from, and the best way to do this is to cut a rectangle and then tear down the middle, and you can use the one piece at the top and one piece at the bottom of the page. So now with the other 2 pieces, because I don't want to waste too much, I'm just trimming a smaller area. So you can see that shortest side is just a very short side because I only want the paper to peep out of the bottom. So coming in with this 3rd polka dot one and just using that blue one with the birds on as a template, I'm tearing across. Now you could put the papers all together and tear them together all at once, but I do like them to be slightly different, so I prefer to tear them separately and then trimming that bottom bit off. So you can see I've used about 1/3 of the paper to create those second 2 layers. So just deciding which way I want them to lay on the page, I decide that I'm going to have the pink in the middle and then the bluebirdy piece at the bottom. And now I'm going to use some water. Sorry, I don't think I've woken up yet this morning. I'm going to use some water just to soften the edges and then curl those up. And by wetting the edges, when they dry, they actually stay in that curl nicely without moving. It becomes nice and stiff, and it's a great way of holding a curl. It's also a great way of getting a really slim curl on your paper. Because it's all damp, you can curl it up really nice and fine, and I like the look of that sometimes. So I'm just positioning the papers. I make a bit of a hash of this. I do the bottom first, and you'll see I don't stick it quite right and end up having to pull it all up and try again. And I've used a tape runner. I tend to try and use wet glue when I do this for this very reason, because you have the time to move the papers around and they slide about a bit on the bottom page until you're happy with the positioning. With a tape runner, it's one and done really. Once it's down, it's down. And you can see there's too much for me of that pink showing. So I'm going to have to pull it up shortly. I still persevere just to see how it'll look with this blue, but I'm losing all the white space in the middle. And I definitely want enough there to have my journaling and things. So here I am now just pulling everything up, and it's a real faff. And I realise when I've done this, the top one does come together much more easily because I actually stick the papers to one another and then glue them down onto the base sheet. Should have done that at the bottom. I don't know why I didn't. Sometimes you just don't think, do you? You just get lost in the moment of creating. Anyway, it wasn't too bad. These 6-2 runners, you do have a little bit of time to pull up and manoeuvre things before they're finally permanently stuck. But they are amazing tape runners. I'd highly recommend them. So just getting that 3rd piece in place, and then the second lot will go much more easily. So as I say, these pictures are of a trip to Blackpool. Mum is from the Midlands in the UK, and she used to come up to Blackpool with her family sometimes to see the lights. And I wanted to take her, and the kids had never seen them, so I said it would be fun to come up in half term. So we drove up mid-afternoon, had a walk down the prom. We parked at the top of the prom near the Blackpool Tower. And I said, we'll get some Harry Ramsden's chips on the way back to the car, and then they could all eat them in the car while I drove down the prom and we saw all the lights. So we queued for ages, and we knew that Harry Ramsden's would be busy with it being half term, and it's a very popular place anyway. So we queued up for ages, got the fish and chips, went back to the car, drove down the prom, and we were too early. They hadn't switched the lights on. We were aiming for about 4:30, 5 o'clock, and it was slightly later that they must have switched them on, so we didn't actually get to see them anyway, but we still got to see Blackpool. It was still a really fun afternoon, but it was just hilarious that was the very point of us going up there, and we didn't ever get to see them. And in fact, we've talked about going back again, but we haven't done, so we must do. I can't believe that it's been 7 years since we did that trip. It just feels like yesterday. It's amazing how the time passes, isn't it? So you probably saw there, I stuck the sheets of paper together and then stuck them to the top, and that was so much easier. So just checking that everything's stuck down, and now I can work on where the photos are going to go. So first of all, I'm just going to map them onto some scrap white card and cut them out just to give a nice defining white border around the edges, because I am going to be layering and tucking per usual. So just using my big scissors to get that trimmed off. And then we can decide how to layer from there. And I know in this collection there's a lovely cut apart sheet that I want to use to layer. This is it. So first of all, I'm going to cut out this one that says thankful for this at the top, and I think that'll be really nice to layer behind one of the photos. And I am going to focus in on the pinks and navies. I'm going to avoid the greens as much as possible, and using the golds and browns as well. So this piece is slightly longer, and I really like this because it says Autumn Memories at the top. It's got that lovely gold and it's got the plaid. So that works beautifully as a layering piece. So next, these dies are brand new in Hey Little Magpie from All and Create. They're fabulous. This is a large tag shape, so I'm going to use that to layer behind one of the photos. Yeah, it does end up being the one of me and the kids. And it's in the set, it's also got the hole reinforcer, so I'm just going to cut that out as well. I cut it out a couple of times because the first time it was too pale to see really on the background, so I put that to one side to see if I can use it later. So now I'm just going to go around all of these pieces with my Tim Holtz edge distresser to distress all the edges, just to give a little bit of definition between the papers and the background. And because I've got a torn background, that suits it really nicely. So I'm just going to glue those down now as layers and see what I'm doing next. At the moment, you can see I've got that tag piece with me and the kids on the left hand side. I do end up switching them around because we're slightly lower on the photo than the one of mum and the kids. I decided that it would be better the other way around in the end. So just poking a hole in that tag to make it look more like a tag, and then positioning these, as I say. And at this point I do still think that they're going that way round, but you can see they're staggered. For me, they're staggered the wrong way because the rip goes up the page. So I'm just playing about with placement, trying to work out what I can do, and shortly I will switch them over, and I'm much happier when I do that. I really do faff and fiddle an awful lot trying to work out what to do. Now I want to add something to the cluster on the left hand side, and I see this little square that says so very thankful, and I think that'll layer really nicely on the photo. And I think it's at this point I realise that I'll be better switching the photo's positions. So just trying to decide where to put that. Here we go. And this also works better because there's a bit of negative space on the left hand side of that photo, so that tag can just layer over the top of that. So again, just distressing the edges of all of this just to match everything else that's on the page. And then I can start gluing these together as a mat. So there we go. I just think that that looks much better, the way that they stagger up the page there. So I'm just looking for a third paper now to create another tag to go behind those two. I do like things in threes where possible, and I love this rusty colour with the pink hearts. So I've got a torn edge, so I've just trimmed that off because I know I can use that as a future piece on a layout, so didn't want to waste that. So trim that off, and then I'm just creating a little tag shape. It's I actually measured this time. This is 2.5 by 3 inches, and it was just the right size to fit neatly behind those two. So that's that spare hole reinforcer that I had die cut from that All and Create die. So I'm just going to add that because it creates continuity, even though the tag's not the same as the die one. Just having the same hole reinforcer with that little bit of distressing on makes it look the same. So again, distressing all the edges with my edge distresser tool, and then I can get this stuck down. And it just tucks in, as I say, really neatly behind those two. And having that bulldog clip on top of that Autumn Memories piece makes it look like it's a third tag. So I do like the look of that. So just gluing all these down together as one mat now before I get them stuck onto the page. I want to use some foam pads because they're raised up above those curled edges, and the foam pads will help them just to stick neatly. So just trying to keep it in place as one mat, and then I'm going to stick the foam pads over that seam of the two pieces just so that it holds it all together. Just checking that I'm happy with the positioning and where I've put the foam pads. So that's why I'm pressing down, just so that I can feel where they are and how they'll sit on that little area. And I am going to add one to that So Very Thankful card as well. So I'll get this stuck down and then I can start going through all the other bits and pieces in the kit to see what else to use. So first of all, the 12 by 12 stickers, and I find a few stickers on this to add. This one says fall is in the air. Fall vibes in that lovely pink colour. And then this one says bring out the sweaters, because the temperature's always so much colder in Blackpool being on the coast. And then this is the one that says fall is in the air. So next into the sticker book, I'll just see what I can add from this. So first of all, I wanted a label to tuck in on that right hand side, just where I've got a little bit of space there, just to fill in that card, and I will add something else at the bottom of that just to complete it. And then I find these little tabs with hearts. I love these, so I'm just adding one to that photo at the top. And then this is where I add something to the bottom of that label. I just find a little flower just to tuck in, and I will trim off the edge that's just hanging over the edge of the card ever so slightly. And then I think these florals will be nice to add as a cluster on the left-hand side of the photo too. I am going to keep that space on the left of that white card to add my journaling, so I just wanted to add a little bit above that 2x2 card there. So this word strip says warm and cosy, so adding that to the tag at the top. And then another one that says comfy cosy at the bottom. And I do love these circular pieces, so I wanted to add a couple of these. So I found one with a sweater on that I add to the top of that So Very Thankful card, and that just fills that in quite nicely, because there was quite a big piece of blank space up there. And then another one that's got some little mittens on, so just adding that to the top. Quick look through to see if there's anything else. And I decided to add another floral and another leaf to this cluster just to fill it out a little bit more. So just layering it on top of the other ones there, and then this leaf. And I just trimmed the very bottom of the leaf off because I don't want to have to tuck it behind the flower, but it's got some white, it's got like a white edge, so I just cut that white edge off so it looks like it's tucked behind. I just struggle a little bit with where to put it, but I decide on this bottom bit in the end. And I will fill in that negative space between the leaf and the florals. You'll see how I do that later. So just coming in with my journaling now, and the journaling reads, a lovely afternoon up to Blackpool with Granny to see the lights. We walked along the prom, then went to Harry Ramsden's for fish and chips for you to eat in the car whilst we saw the lights, but we peaked too early. So just explaining what I'd already told you there. So now going through the foam stickers to create my title. So I want to put October in Blackpool. So I've chosen the October from the foam titles, then in is from these nutmeg thickers from American Crafts. They're very, very old. There's no sticky left on them, so I will glue those down. And then I grabbed these. I really wanted gold for Blackpool because it is glitzy and gold in Blackpool. So just faffing around trying to decide where to put that in. It's quite a tall alphabet that I've chosen, so I struggled a bit, but I get there in the end. So I'm just going to lay down Blackpool with these gorgeous foam stickers. They're gold foam with a pink core, so they work really nicely with this collection. I think they were from the Maggie Holmes collection this summer. They're a fairly recent one. So just getting that all stuck down, and I decide to put in right next to that card in the end. There we go. Just moving it along and coming in with my PVA glue just to stick that down. So you can see it's all coming together really nicely now. So I add some little wood chevrons just to fill in that gap between the edge of the page and in. It doesn't fill it in fully, but it just makes it a bit better so that the in doesn't look like it's just floating on the edge there. Just gluing those down with my PVA. And because of the geometric background, it's easy enough to line things up on here. And now I'm going to address those tag holes. So I pulled out some of my seam binding. This is the American seam binding that we sell at Hey Little Magpie, and I decided that this blue would be the perfect fit. So I'm just going to thread it through the left hand tag and tie a bow, and then the left hand tail I'm going to wrinkle down over that gap that's between the florals and the leaf, and then the right hand you can just see I'm threading it through that second tag, and then I am going to punch a hole in that bulldog clip on the third one and thread it through there, and then just leave it to trail off the edge. So here I am with my single hole punch, just punching that in. And then I'll use my glue to stick this ribbon down where I want it to stay. And you can just wrinkle it up as you go. It's really malleable. So great to tease into the right place very, very easily. And you don't see the glue at all. It just looks like it's scrunched about where you want it. So just using the tip of my glue there to get it into the places that I want it to be. And then the same up here. Just crinkling it up and gluing it down. And then gluing the tail on the edge of that photo. There we go. And that really brings that bright blue colour up to the top of the page. It's gorgeous. So now coming in with my date stamp, and I put this in a couple of places. I put it on that tag at the top, and then also on that little 2x2 journaling tag at the bottom left, the thankful one. I'm now going to go through some old stash. I'm trying to do this more on my layouts just to get some other bits brought in and used up. So these are some very old My Mind's Eye stickers, and I found one that says, "I'll never forget how perfect you are." So I like that to go with the kids. And then these are some old Pink Fresh, I think, and they're actually Christmas ones, but one says chilly and one says family fun, so I think they'll work really nicely with this page. I'm just going through to see what else I can see. You can see how old all these are. A lot of these companies aren't even working anymore. This is an old My Mind's Eye sticker book that I pulled apart, and there's a little autumnal leaf on there, so I've tucked that down under that photo, and then I do come back in with a foam sticker shortly just to layer up onto there. And then these illustrated faith hearts, I found a little orange one that I popped next to those wooden chevrons. And all these little bits and pieces, you don't really notice them too much, but they all give something else for the eye to rest on as you look around the page. So here I am with that foam leaf. I'm just tucking that in at the bottom next to that other leaf that I added, and it works really nicely with that leaf. It just shows you can always mix what you've got. Mixing in the old with the new. And then another little leaf at the top there above the October title. And finally I'm coming in with some gold splatters just to finish it off. Thank you so much for joining me. I really hope you've enjoyed this process. Do ask if you've got any questions. I'm enjoying getting some older October and November photos out to scrap now. I try and scrap seasonally where I can. It just is how my brain works, I suppose. You see all the new product and want to scrap that season. Thank you again for joining me, and I shall see you very soon. Bye.